So, welcome back to Emotional Health Thursday, Self-Care for Black Girls. As always, it's me, Faith.
Alexis, hey y'all.
And Sharea is with us in spirit for today because she is away. But we'll be back next month, hopefully with the three of us. Of course, not only are we back, but it's a new year. So happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2025. Yeah. The month of just 2024 flew by.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
I'm still settling in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, we are at the halfway mark in January. And these are typically the weeks where we're trying to set in our New Year's goals and our resolutions. We're motivated around this time. I hope y'all are motivated. And so we thought this would be a great time to discuss healthy and realistic steps that we can take towards achieving our goals and also things to leave behind in 2024. Okay. So let's just start off with reflections. So what's one thing that you'd like to change about yourself or an area of your life?
For me, I really, and this has been like confirmed, I need to change my habit of inconsistency. Like I am consistently inconsistent. And that is something I am going to fight tooth and nail. Like I'm fighting the devil. I am fighting this year to become consistent in multiple areas of my life. Because I really feel like, how can you be consistent in one area if that's just not a discipline or a habit that you have? And like we talk about Sharea being here in spirit, and one thing that Sharea has stated was discipline and consistency are not the same thing. And I need to become consistent, just in all so many areas of my life.
Yeah.
And so that is what 2025 is gonna bring for me, consistency.
I love that. Sorry to be blowing my nose, guys.
It's 6
It's
season.
so cold.
Wash your hands.
Seriously. It's so freaking cold. But definitely, I completely agree with consistency. That's also on my list for my New Year's goals, especially when it starts to feel like things are daunting.
Yeah.
Because when life is easier, it feels easy to be consistent. You're just doing it, you're waking up, you're going about your day. But then once things start to feel like they're piling up, then it's like, okay, I can't do everything.
Yeah.
Or I lose my consistency. So for you then, thinking about being more consistent, do you typically map out your goals in terms of smaller steps, or do you just have this larger goal and you kind of just go with it?
So that's another thing. So learning how to, of course, with the SMART goals, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but working with goals and then creating those objectives. So of course, with being a therapist, we look at treatment goals and then we have our objectives and small like things that we want to get to. Educators as well. When you create those goals for long-term treatment, but then thinking about to get there, what do I have to do? And I'm focusing on that as well, because then I believe that also creates an opportunity for me to acknowledge when I'm meeting those smaller goals, but then also to check myself if I'm not meeting those smaller goals, to be like, girl, if you haven't done this by then, like you ain't meeting that larger goal, or you gotta like step it up to meet that larger goal. So I do map out my goals, but I'm gonna be consistent now. Consistent with checking in on those smaller goals.
I love that. Yeah, I think because like you're saying, the small steps are really crucial to actually getting to the bigger goal. Without those small steps, we're kind of just going willy-nilly and anything could happen. And so it's important to have the smaller steps and also to track your progress.
Yeah.
Which was my third question in terms of how do you track your progress?
So, depending on what it is, a lot of my goals are written down. And then also I have an accountability group. Nice. So there's a lot of areas in my life, such as like my prayer life, my marriage, and like self-care. I have an actual accountability group. It's a group of us, and we have already like stated our goals. and we check in with one another, like, how you doing?
Are you good? Where's
You said you wanted to plan one date night. It's the middle of January.
Yeah.
When you gonna do it? So it's like, having that accountability group is also a way to track, okay, am I doing what I said I was gonna do?
Yeah, I love that. That's interesting. I feel like I am the opposite, where I don't like accountability groups.
Ooh.
Only because I like to do things on my own.
Mhm.
And in case I slip up or I'm not, as a, I'm not progressing the way that I want to, I don't need anyone else saying what's going on. I just don't.
You don't want anybody checking you, boo.
I don't.
Okay.
Because I'm already checking myself. And so with you checking me too, it's like, I just
Too
can't get a
much.
breath. Yeah,
Mhm.
like I can't. And I think it's also because I overthink a lot.
Mhm.
And so if I'm falling behind, I know it.
Mhm.
And I'm probably beating myself up already. So having other people doing it for me or with me is like, nah.
But I love that perspective because for me, I feel like I need an accountability group because I'm consistently inconsistent. And I will easily, with all the things, all the hats that I wear, it's easy for me to justify letting something go. To be like, oh, I couldn't work out because my 2-year was sick. Where it's like,
you can.
if you don't cuddle him and do a squat, you could do something.
True.
So I think I love that, like based off of personality style, also depends on what it is you may need.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah. So you see like there are different there's different approaches, different things work for different people. But I will say, like for one thing that I'm trying to change this year is paying off more debts. Ooh. And I am someone who is, I would say I'm pretty good with money management. I'm very intentional about what I spend money on. But of course, my student loans are high. And also my car note from getting a new car this last year now. Wow. And so I know. So my goal initially was to pay off my car in 2 years. And now I cut it down to 1 year. And so, and mostly because if I can pay that off, then I can really focus on paying off my student loans. So yeah, so that's my big goal, to really pay off debt more and then just feel like I can breathe a bit more.
Yeah.
And my smaller stuff that I have set is writing down like paychecks, mapping out my budget for monthly spending.
Oh my god.
And also being realistic about how much I really do spend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, because we spend like,
Yes.
we spend so the smaller stuff that I'm taking, like mapping out my budget, being realistic, also thinking about ways that I can make a side hustle possibly. And then through that, I can track, okay, am I paying things off? Am I slacking? Do I have enough savings to even pay off this by a certain month, or do I need to be more realistic? So definitely.
I love that.
I love things. And I won't tell anyone else about it because it's for me to figure out.
That's you got some packages at the door, and I hope you put that in there.
Listen. And will. And will. All right, so now we'll move on to SMART goals, which Alexis already mentioned. We'll define what SMART goals are and we'll break down just what it looks like for our individual journeys. So the SMART acronym stands for the 5 steps in developing goals. This means being specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And you've heard of SMART goals before, you said? Have you always used SMART goals, like that approach?
I learned about SMART goals in grad school. Yeah, in grad school. And actually the second time around. So for my degree in education, where talking about lesson planning and creating those things. Now, writing treatment plans, I did learn about goals and make them specific and measurable and attainable, but the acronym I was not familiar with.
Okay. Okay, yeah, because I know the acronym itself also I wasn't as familiar with, but the steps make sense. And so let's walk through those steps together. When it comes to specific, it's important to define your goal and ask yourself, is this goal focused? Will someone else be involved, or is it just me? Will or where will it take place? And then also provide as many details as possible. And so being specific just means being detailed with the plan.
Mm.
Next, we have measurables. So how much change is needed to achieve the goal? How do you define success? Try to quantify your goal. For instance, with how much weight do you want to lose on, oh, how much weight do you want to lose, or how much money do you want to save? So let's say for my goal now of paying off debt, I need to actually be realistic of how much debt do I owe, how much do I make, how much do I spend, and then how much can I, shift and all of that. Right, and so next is attainable, which means what are the action steps to attain the goal? What resources or tools are needed? And is this goal within your reach? Is it realistic? Have you ever set an unrealistic goal?
Mm.
Mm,
I don't think so.
okay.
I don't think so. Had I put forth and been consistent with the work, it would have. I don't think the goal is unrealistic. No, I don't think I've set unrealistic goals before, but
Okay. That's impressive. 'Cause I have, there have definitely been goals that I've set that I'm like, realistically, I couldn't do it, but I dreamt about it. And so I was like, manifesting, praying, being, trusting God. But realistically, like my life was not aligned towards those goals. So yeah. And so yeah, if you are someone who typically sets realistic goals, great. If you're someone who sometimes like dreams a bit too far, then this could be a good one to pay attention to of say making your goal attainable for your lifestyle and where you are in life. Yeah. And then for the R, we have relevant, which means, asking yourself, is this goal important to you? Are you making this goal because society tells you to, because your mom or your, family want you to, or is this really coming from your own interests and needs? Also asking yourself, are you committed to achieving this goal? Are you willing to dedicate the time and energy to reaching this goal? And what does this goal mean to you? And then lastly, we have time bound. So asking yourself, when does your goal start and end? Is this a year-long goal? Is it from January to May? Like creating some kind of time frame for this goal. Also asking, what is your time frame for, again, achieving this goal? Or is this considered a short, immediate, or long-term goal? Okay. So those are the SMART goals approach. I hope that you can incorporate them into this new year, especially for your resolutions. Okay. And now we'll talk about things that we're leaving behind in 2024 mental health edition.
Bye, 2024.
Goodbye. Well, I guess before we even get to this list, is there anything that you're leaving behind in 2024?
I'm leaving behind playing it small. Yeah.
Okay.
2024 was a very busy and like foundation setting year for me. And I feel like because I was like a novice in a lot of the areas within my purpose, I was just like, like, oh, don't look over here. But now I'm like, no, I'm here. Like, so,
Right.
so I think playing it small. I'm leaving that in 2024. It is time to step out, pop out and show. Y'all know what Kendrick say. So I feel like that is, that is what 2025 is for me. Time to like really get out there with doing the work. So being realistic, but like doing the work, but also, shining a light on me.
Taking space. I actually really love that. I think that's an important transition to make. Especially once you're feeling more set in stone in who you are and just your role in these different spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
What about you?
I would say I'm leaving behind, honestly, I'm leaving behind relationships that don't serve me.
Ooh.
Like, Yeah.
Yes, yes. That was my 2024.
Yeah. Like
Oh, yeah.
I think
Putting people in their place.
completely.
Yeah.
And also learning that, like, yes, it's nice to have fun.
Mhm.
And it's nice to just like go with the flow, but sometimes you need to lock in and you need to be realistic about what role people play in your lives.
Mhm.
And so I think 2024 for me was the year of fun. Like,
Mhm.
especially when it came to like, I had a relationship that I was in that ended, and I was like, you know what, just let me be carefree, do whatever I need to do. And then it's gone to a point where I'm like, okay, I've done enough.
Mhm.
Let me actually start to prioritize myself again.
Mhm.
And so my big goal for 2025 is to really prioritize me more, explore myself a bit more, and leaving behind the old that really just needed to lay to rest.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I love that.
yeah. So we'll see. It's still January.
January.
It's
January.
Yeah. But I think it's gonna be a good year for like me, like focusing on me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's delve into more mental health approaches or tips around things to leave behind. The first is toxic productivity. And this means, over glorifying constant work, especially without rest. This is going to be an important thing to leave behind because we need to prioritize work-life balance.
Mhm.
And rest is actually productivity's partner, not its enemy.
Mhm. Mm.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one. I have a lot of friends who say like, oh, like I think that hustle culture is very much like all work, no rest.
Yeah.
And that's just not realistic because if you're not resting, then how are you rejuvenating yourself to keep going?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's no, I always say like, to like my clients, there's no reward for the most tired person in the world.
Mhm.
Like there's no reward for that. But again, I agree, like hustle culture has taught us that resting equates to lazy. And or like the early bird gets the worm, or you need to be grinding and you need to be doing this, and it's just like, no, I need to be going somewhere and sitting down.
Completely.
Like, let me sit down. Like, your brain is begging you to go to sleep so it can like rest. So yeah, I think that it's a time, and I see that more, especially within like the Black women culture of laying that down, like laying that stereotype, laying that like narrative down. I don't need to always be busy. I don't need to always be doing something.
Yeah.
Like, let me just sit down. Let me get myself together. Let me refuel. So I love that for us. So
completely. And even thinking like apart from sleeping itself, not everything that you do needs to be for like to be productive. You can do a hobby without the goal being to be successful. The goal
Right.
would just be to enjoy this hobby for the time being.
Yeah.
And to just turn off your brain. And so that's also another thing to be mindful of when it comes to productivity, where you really can also just do things without having an end goal, prioritizing the journey and not the end. Yeah. Okay. Next up of things to leave behind in 2024 is comparison culture. And this means, obsessing over curated social media lives and even obsessing over what your friend or neighbor is doing or family member is doing, really prioritizing your own personal growth and your own authenticity.
Oh yeah. Access has been like really the thief of a lot of people's joy, because we have so much access to other people's, like you said, curated lives, and then we compare like their 90-minute Instagram reel to our entire situation, and then we're just like, why can't I? And it's yeah.
Yeah, it's not helpful.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me in 2023, I believe. I found that even like the pandemic coming out of that, I would see a lot of like people on social media who were traveling galore. And I was so jealous. I was just like it should be me. Why am I not rich? Like, why don't I have these like certain, these circumstances? And I was just like, is this helping me or is this hindering me?
Yeah.
And it definitely was hindering me. And so I think that's an important transition to make, of letting go of social media, letting go of comparisons, and also knowing that not everything that you see is what it really is.
Yeah. And using social media for what it is, it's supposed to be entertainment. Now, granted, like we use it for other things, of course, marketing and things like that. And however, to be able to check in with yourself and say, when is this turning from entertainment into envy? Like when am I going from like, oh wow, like let me put this on my list. This I can put this on my bucket list of somewhere to go. Let me put this on my vision board, to being like, well, why you ain't taking me there? Why can't I afford to go there? A totally different narrative that is easy and we all do it. So I think that's something that, you know, we should all strive to really work on, because it really is a thief of joy. It really does take away your gratitude also for where you are in your life. So whenever social media starts to turn from entertainment to envy,
fuck off. Fuck off.
Sign out.
Yeah, truly, like delete that app quickly.
Yeah, sign out until you are able to, you know, like consume it or handle it or stop following certain pages.
Oh my gosh, yes. Just mute them for a while. Really?
Like I'm not following traveling mamas of the world. No.
Mute.
I love that for you.
Yeah, honestly. Like wish them well and just go.
Yeah.
Okay, so next we have overcommitment. And this is, you know, saying yes to everything, even when you don't want to. This is key, like to change the behavior, it's important to then practice healthy boundaries and honor your energy. Yeah, it's a big one.
I love that. And that was so hard for me. I learned that also in 2024. With just a lot of different like things that were taking place in my family surrounding like health issues and, you know, aging relatives and responsibilities and things like that and roles, and really having to come to the point where I had to set certain boundaries and state like I have obligations and priorities that have to take precedence over the role that I played in my family of origin. And it was hard, especially because, you know, growing up in my family and a part of a lot of people's family culture where, you know, you do have the yes mentality. Like you are told to say yes, or to always lend that helping hand, always be there when someone needs them, always give. So it's difficult when you are now telling yourself like that just isn't healthy for me in the way that it's being used, because it can be abused. I'm not saying like become like stingy and isolated, but when your hand is always out and it's always being taken from and nothing is being given back, it's like
it's exhausting.
Yeah, no, I can't do this.
Completely. That is really important, especially like you're saying, when you come from maybe a more collectivist background where the family is a priority, you want to please the family, but also if pleasing the family is taking away from you, then sometimes you need to, you know, give back to yourself for a while. Yeah, I think that's a big one for me too. And it was tested like around Christmas time, especially when it comes to like church. So there was a Christmas carol that my friend wanted us to perform at, because we sing. And going into it, I did not want to do it. I didn't. I didn't. And not for any reason, like
no, they tripping over here.
Crazy. I hope y'all can still hear. Sorry for any background noise. But yeah, like the organizer was really disorganized, and I knew that it would be disorganized. But then I felt like I had to do it for God and for my friend. And so I was like,
up down. You guys are like, I'm disappointing God.
No, literally, I was like, God is gonna be like, what are you gonna do otherwise? Like, you need to just do it. And so I committed to it. But I did let her know that I was, you know, on the fence. As it got closer, I knew that I was not invested because I kept forgetting about it. It was not in my calendar. It was just not in my radar. And she would have to remind me constantly. It reached a point where one of the other girls, she backed out. She's like, I just can't do this, guys. Like, I'm overwhelmed in school.
Great, just take one person and say no.
Oh, and it was 3 of us. I was like, you know what? Since she can't do it, I was like, please, like,
Yeah, count me in for a no too.
I said, let's cancel. I was like, you know what? I'm really working on not overcommitting this year. She reminded me of this, so I'm gonna back out.
That's
And
good.
yeah, but I need to do that even before someone else does it. So I need to keep her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next we have letting go of stigma around therapy. And this means, doing things like avoiding mental health out of your shame, or even for some reason, fear of being judged. We need to know that therapy is a strength and not a weakness. Next is ignoring burnout. And this means pushing through exhaustion instead of addressing it. Let's be more intentional about making self-care and breaks non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah. Always be planning a vacation. That's something that we say in our vicarious trauma training. Like, always be planning a vacation.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes. People always ask, why are you always traveling? Because it keeps me going.
Yeah.
Because if there's no trip in the next few months, if there's no trip.
Yeah, because if I'm not tripping out, y'all gonna see me trip out.
Oh my God. I will be so unhappy. Like, you used to be each day just like, how's it not going? Nothing. Yeah. So yeah, always want to trip. I love that. Next, we're letting go of minimizing mental health struggles. We can use phrases like, I'm just gonna get over it, or even telling people to just get over it. It's important for this one to choose validation, compassion, and understanding. Okay. Next, we have diet culture. We're letting that go in 2024. And this means obsessing over body image at the expense of your mental health. It's going to be important to promote body positivity and intuitive eating.
And that's important, especially because a lot of people, I mean, even myself, have different weight loss goals that we set in the new year, but focusing more on making them a lifestyle, rather than just something, crazy. And I really respect one of my close friends who stated, like, a group of her other friends, another circle of friends, they wanted to start the 75 hard challenge. And this is nothing towards anyone who wants to do the 75 hard challenge. Power to y'all. But she was just like, where I'm at, that would not be a smart goal. Like, where I'm at in my life right now, doing the 75 hard is just not something because she would feel like I'm constantly letting myself down. So it will become like, it's not a lifestyle change for me. And then it's not even something that at this point in my life I can even like dedicate. And it wasn't because she's not serious about her health or anything like that, but she's like, I need to try something that is more attainable. So I was like, I respect that. Like, and again, that goes to also saying no. Like, just because someone invites you to something or on a journey that they're on, even if it's similar journeys, if they're taking a different pathway there and you're like, that ain't the way I need to go right now. Being able to say, while we may have like the same goal, our objectives may be different.
Completely. The journey looks very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's important even with diet culture to consider, am I punishing myself or am I trying to actually love myself? Because for a lot of people going on these diets is really an act of punishing themselves for how they look or how they feel. And that's not conducive to positive change.
Yeah.
That's only going to make you feel like you're constantly giving up on yourself, or you're not following through on what you set out to do. It's just it's a spiral into negativity. And so when it comes to dieting can be a healthy thing. It can be beneficial when you do it in the right way. Right. And even when you're also adding fitness goals to it.
Right.
So it's not only eating, like the way that you eat is a big part of weight loss, but it's also not everything. It's important to develop a healthy overall lifestyle.
Yeah. Balance. The lifestyle.
Yeah. Okay, for number 8, we're letting go of toxic relationships. And this means, staying in relationships, whether they're platonic, romantic, or professional, that drain you or harm you. Instead, we're seeking connections that uplift us. And this is me. So, it's important to not be drained. And even if you don't Because some relationships aren't harming you or aren't draining you, but they're just not good for you in general.
Right.
Especially if they don't align with what it looks like to prioritize your self-esteem,
Right.
your self-image. And so it's important to also consider that in terms of it could not be toxic, but if it no longer serves you for where you're going in life, it's okay to let it go.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 9, we're letting go of all or nothing thinking. And this means letting go of perfectionism or self-criticism, which can stifle your growth. Instead, the aim is to embrace imperfection as part of the journey.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. That's just key in general, because sometimes we do tend to just catastrophize and we think, you know what, either I do this all completely, or either it's perfect or it's not good enough, or it's not worth doing at all. And that doesn't get us anywhere. It just keeps us stagnant because we're afraid to try because we're afraid of failure, and then we're afraid of failure, and so we don't try.
That's real. That is so real.
Yeah. Last but not least, we're letting go of silent suffering. And this means suppressing those emotional struggles. Even just, it's important to share openly, to seek support, and also to connect with other people.
Yeah. And I think that is very important, especially in today's climate where it really feels like, well, what social media is telling us is that people are sharing their emotions, and we're seeing people crying on TikTok, and we're seeing people like give their, their trauma stories, or they're giving just their stories, and it just feels like, oh wow, like this is something that's happening. But I love what you said, like it's sort of like pseudo affirming, because while that may be happening for some, there are still a lot of people who, again, you're watching others share, but you're not sharing what you're going through. Or even the people that are sharing with the screen, like it's great to vlog, it's great to have like that interaction, but what support are you really receiving other than maybe like some likes and
maybe money, like if you have a good amount of followers.
Right. Maybe so like, but what kind of like really, like what kind of real support are we seeking when we are struggling and suffering? And also, I also like to think about who is close to you, like in proximity, that you are turning to, or do you only have this online community?
That's a facade.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, what does that mean for you?
That's actually so important. Even thinking about it, because it is true on TikTok, especially, people are sharing at an all-time high. Even things that they should just keep to themselves. I can't lie. And it's almost like this idea, like, oh, I have my community here, but in real life, you have no one.
Yeah.
When you turn off the screen, who do you go to?
Right.
Because that in itself can also create a social media addiction where you're constantly seeking validation online. Then in your real life, like everything is falling apart. And even thinking about how these apps are not long lasting. TikTok may be shut down. Like TikTok may be shut down. Is it by what, Monday? Like by the 20th? And if that goes and that's where all your community is, you're gonna be left with nothing. And that can even cause someone to spiral even more mentally. Where they're like, I'm all alone, I have no one, I've lost my money. Like there's so many big implications for it. And so it's important to also have close inner circles in your day-to-day lives who we can go to. Yeah. But I hope TikTok isn't right. Like it's a bit scary. And so we really did give the tips as we went through each of these, but I'll give a brief, kind of textbook read of some more tips that you can use to incorporate. When it comes to toxic productivity, it's important to have balanced productivity. And this can look like scheduling regular breaks or setting realistic daily goals. You can even use tools like the Pomodoro technique, where I believe it's a 20-20. So if you work for 20 minutes, you take a break for either 2 or 20 minutes, and then you kind of balance it in that way. And this just allows you to have that balance between work and rest. When it comes to comparison culture, it's important to work towards self-acceptance. This means, like Alexa said, limiting social media use, curating your feed to follow your inspiration, or inspiring authentic accounts. Also practicing gratitude journaling to focus on your achievements and your strengths. When it comes to overcommitments, it's important to have healthy boundaries. And so before agreeing to something, pause and ask, do I have the capacity for this? And if you don't, say no. Right?
Just say no.
Just say no. You can say no kindly but firmly. For example, you can say, oh, I'd love to, but I don't have the bandwidth right now. Next, we have stigma around therapy. It's important to normalize seeking help. And for a tip, this can look like speaking openly about positive experiences with therapy and also encouraging others to explore mental health resources without any judgments. Did you read number 5?
Yeah, sure. Ignoring burnout, we're gonna go to prioritizing recovery. So creating a self-care toolkit that includes activities like yoga, hobbies, or walks, checking in with yourself weekly and adjusting commitments if burnout is looming. With minimizing mental health strategies, instead, we're gonna validate, like Faith said, and have compassion. So use affirming language when talking about emotions, like saying, it's okay to feel overwhelmed, let's talk about it. Offer the same compassion to yourself. That is, we are more compassionate with others
Completely.
than we are with ourselves.
Yeah.
And that is ludicrous. And we're gonna stop that. We're leaving that in 2024, y'all. Okay? Diet culture. We're going to have and show body positivity. Shift the focus from weight to overall wellness. Use affirmations like my body deserves nourishment and care, and explore intuitive eating principles. With toxic relationships, we're moving towards nurturing healthy connections. Regularly assess relationships by asking, does this connection add value to my life?
Does it?
Do an inventory. Do a relationship inventory. And like they said, platonic, romantic, professional, do an inventory. If it is not fruitful, if it is not adding something to you, then it is doing nothing for you. So it's a no. Invest time in people who respect and support your boundaries. And with our all or nothing thinking, we're growing to a growth mindset. So replace I failed with what did I learn? And break big goals into smaller steps and celebrate progress, not just perfection.
I actually love that one, especially. I know my friend recently, I told her about something that that ended, and I was feeling disappointed. And she was like, well, instead of sulking, what did you learn from it? And I was like, oh, okay. A good reminder to just reflect on the positive and the takeaways and to dwell on what didn't work out.
Yeah. And I love the what did I learn? Because that just happened to me this week. That just happened to me this week because in 2014, in 2014, the same accountability group minus a couple of people, we went on the same type of journey. But again, in 2014, I was in my 20s, I'm in my 30s. So we're talking about 10 years later.
Right.
10 years later. So but we had the same kind of like motive, like we're gonna do this, we're gonna be great. And this week was very hard for me because it's that time, ladies, and I just had no energy, no motivation, and so I did not meet my gym goals this week. And I was so hard on myself, and I was getting ready to just be like, I failed. I am the worst. It's only like the 13th, and I'm going. But like they really encouraged me and inspired me and was like, listen, this ain't that. Like 2025, like your 2025-year-old body, your 2025, like is not the same as your 2014. Your situation is not, you didn't have 2 kids. In 2014, you didn't have like a full-time job and a business. Like, yeah, you were a student, you had a lot of things, but you were built, you had the capacity to handle that. And not saying I don't have the capacity to handle these things now, but it is so different. And so it's like, well, what did I learn? Well, I learned next month around this time, I have to really set some things in place that and be more realistic with myself and not have that all or nothing. Like, oh, I didn't go to the gym, so I might as well not even stick to my eating plan either.
Right. Oh.
Not didn't do that this time. But in 2024, with my being consistently inconsistent, I would have. This time I was like, well, I didn't go to the gym, but I'll at least follow my meal plan. And then like after really checking in with, my group, I was just like, you know what, guys, like I feel a little more motivated.
Nice.
So it's like, well, what did I see what I
What did
learned?
you learn? I love that.
Mhm.
I love that's a great example. That's a great example. And then of course, last but not least, we have silent suffering. So instead, let's move towards open communication.
Mhm.
This looks like sharing feelings with a trusted person or a journal, which I love to journal.
Mhm.
We can practice I feel statements, something like I feel overwhelmed because blank. And you can use this to express your emotions constructively.
Mhm.
All right. So those are the things that we're leaving behind in 2024, mental health wise. As we move into 2025, let's embrace healthier habits that nurture our mental well being by letting go of toxic productivity, comparison culture, and the stigma around seeking help. We create space for self compassion, balance, and authentic connections. Of course, we must always remember that growth is not about perfection, it's really about progress. So the small intentional steps can lead to very meaningful change. Let's prioritize rest, building supportive networks, and also to honor our mental health as a foundation for a thriving life.
Mhm.
So here's to a year of healing, growth, and embracing the best version
Okay,
of
we don't have our
ourselves.
champagne. We leave for a toast, but we'll raise our tea.
Yes. And then now we'll go into our wellness tips. You know, first to drink your water. We're drinking tea, so that's perfect. Get your body moving, and this can look like having at least 30 minutes of some kind of body movement a day to get your blood flowing. It's also important to eat a balanced diet and to incorporate more vegetables and fruits. It's also important to find time for meditation and mindfulness, not medication.
Unless it's prescribed.
Exactly. Or you're sick.
Mhm.
So it's important to find joy. So doing things that bring you joy and replenish you. Get your rest, get your vitamin D, and of course, always show yourself compassion.
Mhm.
And now, what are we grateful for?
I am grateful for community. I
Mm,
think I've said that before, but I really am.
That's real.
I'm grateful for community. It is life-changing for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'm grateful for vacations
Mhm.
because I'm traveling tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I
Coming in
am.
January, huh? Okay. Well,
Oh my God, yeah.
great.
Yeah. Oh my God, no, December was rough. Because normally I go to Nigeria, I go
Mhm.
home for December. And this year I didn't plan ahead enough, so I didn't go. And everyone went. Like social media, turning off social media was so real for December. 'Cause, my whole TL was in Nigeria. People who've never gone to Nigeria went to Nigeria.
Oh wow.
And I was depressed. I was just like, okay, this is rough. And so because I couldn't go, I made sure that for Q1 January, I
Mhm.
was traveling.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's where we're at. So I'm grateful for vacation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes. And now for our positive affirmations. I can start. I embrace the changes to come.
Mhm. And I am thankful for new beginnings.
Mhm. And then I am motivated, focused, and capable.
Mhm.
Anything else, Head?
Um, I am capable of being consistent.
Love that. That's a great one to end with, actually. So we'll wrap up there for today. I hope that you all can also trust that you are capable of being consistent, that you are capable of setting attainable goals, smart goals. And I hope that your 2025s are starting off with a really great start.
Yes.
All right. So we'll see you all in February, the month of love. And we'll talk then.
Oh wow. The love.
The month of love. We'll talk about self-love, romantic love. I think it'd be cool to talk from different perspectives. So like you're married, Sharea is married. Talk about those journeys, and then we'll talk about self-love. That's where I'm at for this year.
And self-love within marriage.
Truly,
Mhm.
truly, and yeah, so that's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, see you
See
all,
ya.
take care.